What's going on, guys? K-Pine here and welcome back. And in this video, I'll be featuring a team that may very well just be classified as FREELO in the Sunshine Cup. I've climbed from the 2600s into the 2900s in just 2 days with this team. Shadow Quagsire on the lead, Licky as a safe swap, and Talonflame as the closer. Shadow Quagsire is a good core breaker to a lot of the Dunsparce Talon, Diggersby Talon teams you'll come across. Licky is a fantastic pivot to bait out an opposing Quagsire, rollout user, or Clodsire that Talon doesn't want to see, and Talon as a closer is on Flame Charge. Because unlike the open GreatLeague meta where Fly and Brave Bird is the go-to set, Flame Charge has a lot of flexibility, especially when it gives you opportunities to ramp up your attack with the grass types that are around. Not to mention it works good as a bait move since a lot of people will be respecting the potential Brave Bird. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, into the first battle, we lead Quagsire into Diggersby. Good lead for the Quagsire, but it is better for the Diggersby in the zeros since the Diggersby does win the zero shield scenario here. So what I like to do is build up to 7 mud shots, play to the CMP tie to their Scorching Sands, land the Aqua Tail, shield their move, and if they stay in, I will play to the CMP tie again with another Aqua Tail, let their Scorching Sands go, and then mud shot them down so my Quagsire stays a little bit healthy, and then I gauge from there what they come in with, whether I want to pivot or not. But here in this situation, my opponent swaps out into a Spinda, and I'm like, a Spinda? I have no idea what moveset this runs, except Icy Wind. So they show Icy Wind, I'm like, okay, I can bring in my Talon. I could get a very nice Incinerate farm down here if it's just an Icy Wind, but they're on Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb nearly one-shots the Talonflame. Luckily, we do hang on, get off that fly to grab their first shield. And now I bring in my Quagsire, which we get to the Aqua Tail on the CMP tie. But that is so unfortunate because I literally just throw away my entire Talonflame there. And it's like, shoot, man, I should have come in Licky if that was the case. But we are able to get their final shield with that Aqua Tail. Quagsire does hang on. We pivot out of there to save it for a potential catch in the end game, and they have a Miltank in the back. And I am running Earthquake on the Licky as opposed to Shadow Ball, just because if an opposing Dunsparce, or in this case a Miltank, swaps into the Licky, I want to be able to hit it with a harder nukish move, just so I can do a lot of damage instead of Body Slam, which honestly, Body Slam's a pretty terrible move now since the nerf the most recent season. Now they come in back with their Diggersby, I'm loading up on energy, and I need to just spam off as many moves as I can, see if I can handle this Diggersby. They go for the Fire Punch, because that's all they need to do at this point, so I will shield up the Fire Punch. I will wait a turn and then swap it to my Quagsire to try and catch their next Fire Punch, but my opponent showed good patience. They make a nice catch of my Aqua Tail onto their low health Spinda, but this is Body Slam range as we do have the move stored. So saving my Quagsire there, getting the Mud Shot worth the damage off. Even on low health, it came in clutch there as Licky takes out the Diggersby. GG's. Next battle, Quagsire into Clodsire. Fantastic lead. See what my opponent wants to do. They say swap into an Abomasnow, and in this meta, Abomasnow is not a safe swap. Look at these Incinerates go to town on the Abomasnow. They land a Weather Ball. It's not gonna matter. 3 Incinerates, this thing is gone, and now I can bring... And now they bring in their Clodsire, and I'm gonna go for a Fly here. Honestly, I should have gone for an Incinerate into a Fly. In a lot of situations when you're running Flame Charge into a Fly, as in a lot of situations when you're running Flame Charge Fly moveset on a Talonflame, you generally want to go for Flame Charge Fly, because if you go for the first Flame Charge, then your next 2 Flies are boosted, and you get to the next 2 Flies on only 2 Incinerates each, which would be the same if you go for Fly right away, as it's a 3-2-2. Going for a Flame Charge holds that same count as 3-2-2, but like I said, now both of your moves are boosted. My opponent has a Credilli in the back, so we can just bring in our Licky here, go for the Earthquakes. First one does get shielded, and now we can just shield both of these moves from the Licky. We just, from the Credilli, we just give up both of our shields in this situation. and we'll be able to land 2 Earthquakes to take them out, which my opponent recognizes, so they concede. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Quagsire into Shadow Quagsire, the mirror. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky matchup here, because whoever wins this in the 0 shield is whoever wins CMP. So if you have a little bit of a higher attack weight Quagsire, it will help out in this situation. As 1 Aqua Tail does land. Now I'm going to let my opponent's Aqua Tail go through. I fire off the Aqua Tail. I will lose CMP. And because I don't have a great way of getting rid of this Quagsire, I will give up a shield here and just take it out. Plus, since my Quagsire is a little bit healthy at this point, I will be able to reach a move against whatever they come in with. But since they come in with a grass type there, I can just pivot out, bring in my Licky, and if my opponent pivots out of this matchup into their 3rd Pokemon, this is basically just a win for me, since I will be able to have the Talonflame on the grass type. Now, in that lead scenario, if you lose CMP, you give up a shield, and then your opponent shields there, I will just let their move go on the next CMP tie. It's not worth going down 2 shields in the lead, but I do recommend, if you lose CMP, going down that 1 shield. On the back, they do have a Flygon, and this is going to be a very tough match, as I do not reach that Aqua Tail. And honestly, I don't think that me reaching that Aqua Tail would have mattered, just because Dragon Claw will take out my Talonflame from here, and Aqua Tail would not have been enough to take him out there. So either way, my opponent is able to take that one. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Quagsire into Shadow Flygon. And now this, you have to throw your moves on good timing. It's very crucial you throw your moves on good timing against a Shadow Flygon lead. 7 Mud Shots and then an Aqua Tail. If it lands, which it does here, you can just shield their next move and Mud Shot all the way down. You will get the Mud Shot here, Mud Shot down here before they reach their 2nd Dragon Claw, as you see there. If they have an extremely high ranked Shadow Flygon, they will actually survive that 3rd Mud Shot and get to a 2nd Dragon Claw, of which, if that's the case, I will swap out to catch it onto Licky. But most of the time, they will go down to those Mud Shots once you land that Aqua Tail. And say your opponent shields that first Aqua Tail, right? And then you shield their Dragon Claw, and then you throw on good timing again after 1 or 4 Mud Shots for your next Aqua Tail. And they shield that next Aqua Tail, and if they go for another Dragon Claw themselves, then you will shield that and you'll be able to reach a 3rd Aqua Tail to take switch advantage. However, if they only throw 1 Dragon Claw and then you throw your 2nd Aqua Tail and your opponent goes for the Dragon Tail farm down, it will come to DRE as to whether or not you get that 3rd Aqua Tail. So just something to be aware of there, that you might get it, you might not. All is going to come down to luck given the game state for it. So here, another Shadow Flygon lead, and we will see if it plays out that way in this situation. So the 7 Mud Shots and then an Aqua Tail. Nope, this one does land. So we will give up a shield. Now we're going to see here if it's the same thing. We get a nice Mud Shot farm down. Nope, I realized that, hey, I can't get that Mud Shot farm down. So like I said before, I'll try and catch. I'll catch if I can't gauge if I'm going to get that Mud Shot farm down or not. And then if I find out that I don't, I'll catch. But if I can gauge that I can't get that Mud Shot farm down like I can there, I will throw that 2nd Aqua Tail to take them out. Now we're in the Talonflame mirror, and I am behind an Incinerate, so I do call that they're not going to go for the Brave Bird, which they do not. And now I feel like I'm in a decent spot, right? Because I can get off 1 fly and then another Incinerate and get off the next fly. But that Incinerate KOs and I lose an entire fly, and what should be a pretty straightforward win at this point, all of a sudden, because of that Incinerate KO'd, is no longer straightforward. So I call another fly, making sure that they're not on Brave Bird. A little bit of a risky call there, but the fact that they did land that fly means I could save my next shield, and we do take that despite a tricky situation. What do we know? Yet another Shadow Flygon lead. So we would throw after 7 Aqua Tails, but my opponent throws an alignment, and that makes it very easy, because if they do double shield this lead scenario, right, then it's not going to come down to DRE anymore as to if I get that 3rd Aqua Tail or not, just because they gave me all that free energy. So I can go for Aqua Tail number 1. and then Aqua Tail number 2. My opponent gives up their second shield, and because they do that, if I want to take switch, I could, but I decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to come in with my Talonflame here and just start ramping up my attack, right? I know that these Incinerates are resisted, but I do have the shield, and I'm calling that up energy. My Talonflame is going to absolutely destroy their back line. Leave with 100 energy. They come in with their own Talonflame, and I'm going to go for an Incinerate, a Flame Charge, excuse me, into a Fly. The Flame Charge into the boosted Fly will be enough to take out the Talon. Oh, just not enough to take out the Talon, but we do snipe it with a rollout, and they have a Ferrothorn in the back. So you could, a potential on Licky Licky is you could go for Solar Beam for if you safe swap the Licky Licky and they come in with like a Quagsire or something of that nature, and you want to absolutely nuke the Quagsire with Solar Beam to flip switch. You can, but situations like this are why I do prefer the Earthquake over the Solar Beam, and it just worked out better. As Licky Licky does tank that Power Whip, get to land another Earthquake onto that Ferrothorn, and then we come in with the Talon to finish the job as my opponent concedes. GG's. Next battle, we lead Quagsire into Abomasnow. Now you would think this is a terrible lead, but it's really not. You just safe swap into your Licky Licky, and if your opponent stays in to ice you in your Licky Licky, which they normally do, that's fine. They'll stay in and then pivot out. Now this is that situation I was talking about where if you wanted Solar Beam to absolutely nuke that Quagsire, you could, because as you see, they let it go and I would have just gone switch right there. However, Abomasnow leads aren't bad because one, you either take switch advantage with your Licky Licky, or if you don't take switch advantage, that's perfectly fine, right? Because you can come in with your own Quagsire, you can mudshot down their rollout user, their Quagsire, their Clodsire, whatever it is, get a ton of energy, and then just throw Stone Edges at the Abomasnow. And up all that energy, it's now a neutral matchup. It's negative for the Quagsire if you're down energy or starting neutral. I guess starting neutral, it's kind of bait dependent. But if you're up energy, it's very advantageous for the Quagsire. As you'll see here, I leave with a shield advantage and over Stone Edge stored. So my opponent comes in with the Abomasnow, which they do. It's bye-bye Abomasnow unless they give up their final shield. They give up their final shield. I now have a 2-shield lead Talonflame, and even against the Dunsparce, it's not gonna matter because we can land a Flame Charge into a Fly, and then it's goodbye Dunsparce. And then Talonflame gets to take care of Abomasnow after that. And it's very crucial that in this kind of situation, if you go back and replay that and you see like the Abomasnow throwing that Powder Snow and then their counter swap in the Dunsparce, if you throw your Flame Charge as soon as you get it, it actually will be on alignment to the Dunsparce, giving them a free rollout. So that's why I threw 4 Incinerates there before the Flame Charge. So it was for good timing instead of on alignment, as 2 Incinerates absolutely deletes that Abomasnow. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Quagsire into Talonflame. Fantastic lead. Against a Talonflame lead, you know, you throw 7 mud shots. I like to go straight Aqua Tail, because if you get their shields, fantastic. But if they let it go and call it's an Aqua Tail and not a Stone Edge, you can just come in with Licky Licky and basically snipe them with rollouts. So it's pretty safe to just go straight Aqua Tail in this situation. So straight Aqua Tail, like I said, if they let this go, then come in with Licky Licky to snipe them with the rollout, but they don't. But they don't let it go. They give up their shield, and I can just throw 2 more, and then yet another Aqua Tail. It lands on Talon, and here I go to snipe, but they throw their move right away, and that's perfectly fine because I get to preserve my Quagsire at this point. And if they're staying in with Quagsire against the Quagsire when they have a Talonflame, then they're going to be weak to the Quagsire in the back. So we use Licky Licky as that damage absorption, and while also preserving all that HP on the Quagsire. As my Licky Licky does survive on 1 HP to get a Earthquake off against the Flygon, which is extremely nice. And now I bring in my own Quagsire, and I unfortunately get the 1 turn bring in there, so I don't even have a chance to CMP tie this Quagsire to see if I win CMP. But I was hoping I'd survive the Aqua Tail, but I didn't either. So I lose that energy, and now I can just bring in my Talon. And despite how unfortunate that was, I'm in a fine spot here because all I needed to do was respect the Stone Edge, knowing that they're going to get to another move, but it's only going to be an Aqua Tail. It won't take out my Talon, and I can just go for a Fly to take out their Flygon, and then another Fly to outpace their Quagsire, which will be enough to take it out. As Quagsire goes down, GG's. Next battle. We Shadow Quagsire into another Talonflame. So same game plan as last time if they stay in. They don't. They swap into an Oranguru. And yeah, this is kind of a little bit of a core breaker to the team. I'm not exactly sure the proper way to play this out. If I just go Talonflame right away. If I go Licky Licky. You know, my guess was to chip it and then come in Talon just so I can get a very nice farm down, predicting that they have something strong to an opposing Talon in the back. So I do tank both of those brutal swings. In comes their Talon. It gets the back-to-back flies, but unfortunately it looks like that Incinerate will KO, so I'm only going to be able to get one move off. And then I bring back in my Quagsire. Honestly, I probably should have brought in my Licky Licky here just for the rollout damage, as well as to get head start on energy against what they could potentially have in back. And what they have in the back is a Credilli. So this match isn't over. They have a 1 bullet seed head start, and I landed an Aqua Tail. So all I need to do is be able to land an Earthquake, and I just win this game. So I go for a Body Slam bait here, and this is honestly a really dumb bait because my opponent's win condition is just a no shield that. Since they have 2 shields, I can survive a move from the Credilli. They can't survive an Earthquake. So I should just be going straight Earthquake in this situation, right? And I go, you know what? They call a bait once. They can't possibly call it twice. But they do call it twice. And I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, you know what? This is what I get. Should have played in my win condition. This is why it's very important to be able to recognize that and just play to your win condition in those situations. As since now that they called 2 Body Slam baits, my opponent's able to take it. And down goes the Licky Licky. GG's. Next battle, Dunsparce Lead. Fantastic lead for the Quagsire, and there's a pretty specific way to play this one out as well. You throw an Aqua Tail after 7 Mud Shots. If they shield this Aqua Tail, then you will shield their Drill Run, and then throw another Aqua Tail after that. Make sure it's on good timing after 1 or 4 Mud Shots. And then once the Aqua Tail lands, you will then tank their Drill Run, and then fire off a Stone Edge to take out the Dunsparce, as you'll see in this situation. I got the shield, landed that Aqua Tail, and now this Stone Edge will. And the reason why I have to go for the Stone Edge for the 3rd move is because an Aqua Tail won't KO from this range, but a Stone Edge does. And your opponent most of the time will let the move go, forcing you to throw that Stone Edge to take them out. Now, if you play out the Zero Shield scenario where you land that first Aqua Tail and your opponent doesn't give up a shield, I still recommend giving up a shield on your own Quagsire, since Dunsparce does win the zeros there. And once you give up that shield, you can then over farm. And for the 2nd move, I recommend going for the Stone Edge, because same situation like how I just previously described, an Aqua Tail won't be enough to KO the Dunsparce, but a Stone Edge is. So your opponent most of the time will let it go, forcing you to waste more energy on that Stone Edge, as well as keeping your Quagsire healthy. The opposing Quag does land a Stone Edge on my Licky. I'm 1 rollout away from the Body Slam, but they're at an Aqua Tail. This Aqua Tail will not KO, so I will survive it. And now here I overfarm, seeing Abomasnow come in. I try and swap right away to my Talon, but I must have missed the Talon as I throw an extra rollout, but honestly works out fine because I still survive the Powder Snows, bank an Earthquake, and then get the farm down on the Talon. So either way, it worked out perfectly fine as we do take that one. GG's. So like I said, this is a very strong team you can try in the Sunshine Cup. I gained 300 ELO with it in 2 days, bringing me up into the 2900s, and it just feels like a well-rounded team overall. Each Pokemon has their role and feels like they carry their own weight. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.